US President Donald Trump's recent overtures toward his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin have prompted calls for a radical rethink of how the European Union deals with its support to Ukraine, but also its own defence. Now, one of Ukraine's staunchest backers since Russia's full-scale invasion 3 years ago has been EU member Lithuania, and I'm joined now by Lithuania's Foreign Minister, Kęstutis Budrys. Thank you so much for speaking to DW.
Thank you for having me here today.
So we've just woken up to news of elections in Germany, and Friedrich Merz, the man who's most likely to be Germany's next chancellor, has said that he believes the US simply doesn't care about the fate of Europe and that cultivating independence from the United States should be a priority. What do you make of that statement? Do you agree?
We have to be prepared for different scenarios and for different contingency. That's a natural work in the security field. On the other hand, we are strong supporters of transatlantic agenda, and we are looking forward for the positive elements in it as we propose them. I did personally in Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks ago, as I am suggesting here to my colleagues in Europe to do it also. We have energy trade. We have the technology development, joint technology development. We have our common interest in strengthening our defenses. We have to also to push forward cooperation in the defense industry field. There are many fields where we share the interest, and we have to build on those. On the other hand, of course, we have to think about different contingencies. And one of those is building stronger Europe, understanding that for now, there is no substitute to U.S. presence in Europe, to U.S. capabilities that we simply lack of. Even if we start spending, all of us, 5% right now, this year, for our defense needs, we cannot build those capabilities even in 5 or 10 years. We are dependent on transatlantic relations. That's why we have to look for the opportunities to strengthen our bonds and to look for the opportunities also in the other field. And in the language of interest, there are interests.
So does that mean you prefer to stay on this constructive side and avoid that kind of more explicit criticism we've seen coming out of Friedrich Merz? Is that perhaps a bit more dangerous for a country like you that has the most to lose from a potentially disgruntled Donald Trump?
I don't agree with that we have the most to lose. Of course, in our national security understanding, we base it on two fundamentals. That's NATO membership, and that's our strategic relations with US. Yes, that's what we do, because our relations with US for us is existential, but I doubt that we are the only one in Europe that are so exposed to Russian threat. It's to all of us. It's not all about the frontier nations. If all the structures will collapse, if NATO collapses, if all the security architecture collapses, everyone is in danger and everyone will face the existential threats then. And for us, yes, we talk more because we sharpen the things and then say what we see in front of us, talking about Russia's aggression, first of all, and I think that's the top priority for us to discuss and explain to US partners. And also we understand where are the tools or guarantees for our security, and that's the US. So answering your question, yes, US is critical, and no, Lithuania is not the only country that is exposed to the threats. Germany is in the same line, or any other European nation. If someone thinks that Russia's aggression has limits, I would love to argue with that.
We've been here at these talks today. You have been talking with fellow ministers about what to do in terms of European support to Ukraine. Friedrich Merz is expected to take office. What kind of changes would you like to see in terms of German policy on backing Kyiv?
I would love to see continuation in our relations between our countries, Lithuania and Germany, as we so much expanded our security cooperation and security dialogue because of the many decisions that were made in that direction, and we want to continue and build on it even furthermore. We strongly support Germany's decision to increase presence in the north and eastern direction and projection of this power, of the power of this direction. So we expect that it will continue, and we will even strengthen it. What concerns Ukraine, we commend Germany's support to Ukraine, being country number 2 of supporters. That's very important, and we need this sort of leadership in Europe to continue, especially in a period which is right now where we see that there are some doubts to which direction we have to go. So another strong commitment from Germany to support for a long period Ukraine is what we need. It would show the leadership. And it's only one thing that Ukraine needs. Of course, it's critical to have it in the financial, security and defense field, but it's also the hope for Ukrainians to be part of EU, and that's EU accession. We have to fasten the process. We have to open the clusters already this period when Poland is presidency in the Council, and open as much as we can this year to show that we can reach the result, the EU membership, before or at 2030. And for that we also need the strong leadership. And talking about the longer security in Europe and finding the solution how we should stop Russia's aggression. Because ceasefire is a trap, and it may look like an appealing way and to have the quick result, but it's a trap that will end in another conflict, be it repeated aggression against Ukraine or be it another target in Europe. So for longer term solutions we need long-term commitments. We need, of course, more resources for it, and we also have to tie ourselves to Ukraine and back forth in our joint future in Europe.
And more weapons, perhaps different types of weapons that Germany might be able to provide?
Of course it is needed. Of course it is needed. When we're talking about the leverages, and when we're talking about in the context of peace negotiation, in the context of the current battlefield, in the context of Ukraine being stronger, as we all support this idea, peace through strength. What it means, strength? We need leverages then. And in both of these contexts, yes, they need longer arms, meaning that they have to reach targets that are beyond only the borders. Of course they need that. And that was the case 1 year before, that is the case now, or looking into the future. Or this is what we need in Europe, long-range fires, that's what we need. For Russia just to be assured that immediately after crossing the border, the certain targets on their mainland would be destroyed immediately. And that would be our response. And that will be our resistance to anything that is happening there. So that's what Ukraine needs. And not providing these tools for Ukraine, then we are lying to ourselves that we are supporting Ukraine till the victory, or we want Ukraine to prevail. We cannot limit their capabilities. So from this perspective, we have to achieve leverages against Russia. And then what Lithuania says is that we have to develop further with sanctions. We have to seize frozen assets and use it for the needs of Ukraine. We have to provide more support, military support to Ukraine, and it is doable. We can even substitute the American support to Ukraine if it happens this year or for the next year. For Europe, that's additional 13 billion euros per year. We have the 16.5 trillion euros worth GDP in European Union. So 40 billion, that would be 0.25% of GDP. That's what Lithuania is now committed to Ukraine. Last year we spent around 0.3% of our GDP. So for all Europe to commit 0.25% of GDP, it would be 40 billion euros in total for the security and defense needs, and that is even more than Ukraine needs right now. And it's reachable. So when we have these solutions, when they are on the table, when we discussed it times before, we have to act now and just implement it and decide on frozen assets, on sanctions, and on support to Ukraine. And we are, as a minimum, at the table. And as maximum, we are assisting Ukraine to prevail in this conflict.
So what's the hold-up? You've come to these talks with fellow ministers. There's been all sorts of discussions about a radical wake-up call for Europe, having to really ramp things up. Is that what you feel has sunk in among fellow EU leaders, or do you think we're not there yet?
Not all, and it's not there yet. Because if there would be everyone on the same page, we will have those decisions already. So now the next benchmark and the next meeting will be the 6th of March. And our leaders will meet, and I hope that then it will be decided on an additional package of military assistance, because that would be the time. We all agreed, all of us, on 16th package. Okay, it's less ambitious than Lithuania wanted from the beginning.
That's the 16th package of sanctions against Russia from the European Union.
Sanctions, but for the support, we still can make a decision. On sanctions, we already decided, and frozen assets. So we discuss it today, leaders have to discuss it, and we have to return with the decision. So what I hear from my colleagues, that there are some legal risks in it. We say that there are legal solutions for it. When I hear that there are economic, financial, and political risks related to this decision, I agree that there are, but we have to manage those. Risk avoidance is only one way of how you manage the risks. And we do not have to accept them all. We can share the burden or the potential harm that can happen from one decision or another. There are ways there. We need political will in making this decision. With 200 billion euros in our hand of Russian central bank assets, that would be the ticket to the table of the negotiations. And we cannot be then ignored in whatever design someone wants to put for this ceasefire or for the peace.
And I'm just going to give a bit of context there. What you're talking about is frozen Russian central bank assets that are frozen within the European Union, most of them here in Belgium. You would like to see the European Union seize them, confiscate them, and see the proceeds going to support Ukraine. That has been seen, let's be honest, you and I both know, as a legal non-starter by many EU member states. Are you barking up the wrong tree here? Is this something which is not going to get you anywhere? Isn't there something that could be done more in the short term that might be more effective?
We were methodological in this one. Yes, I heard those legal concerns. So that's why I asked my legal department to look into it, and we provided non-paper with at least 3 or 4 options how we can do it. It's not about confiscating and giving it away. There are different ways how to do it. We can give it as a loan with some condition of reparations being paid from Russia, aggressor, to victim, Ukraine, or there can be some conditionalities, others related with the illegal occupation of the territories. We can make this. And even today we use the windfall interest rates as the source of the support to Ukraine. So legally there are answers. We can get there with our lawyers and find the gentle way, subtle way how to proceed. And then there are, of course, economic and financial some risks related to that. And we can share those risks. So from my perspective, the answer is, and I know that there are many countries at the table that say the same, and they are not groundless, those positions, that we have the reasons to talk about it as the big thing and a big tool, big leverage.
Can I ask you about your statements that you want to be constructive and look at ways to improve relations with the United States, for example, but you're also, on the other hand, warning that Russia does not want peace and that will not stop at Ukraine in terms of setting its sights further. How do you reconcile that fact with the fact Donald Trump, the US president, seems to be getting friendlier and friendlier with his Russian counterpart? Is the US walking into a trap set by Russia?
The ceasefire would be a trap. I have no doubts about it. I have a clear understanding of the overall thinking, decision-making of the previous cases, precedents with Russia's activities in the neighborhood, with the aggressions, be it previously, be it Georgia, previously Ukraine, now Ukraine, and many other cases, how they manipulated different situations. I have no doubt what's in their mind now and on the priority list, what they want to achieve in these negotiations. But when we are talking about our American friends, still from the very friendship, I think that we still have the scope here and possibilities to show the real facts on the ground, about the support, about who is who in this situation. It's not just a conflict, that's the war of aggression, and that's the crime in the way how international law describes it. Then we have to go in and talk and explain and make it right, because you cannot make the good decisions on wrong assessments. If your overall assessment is wrong, so your decisions will be wrong. And we want Americans to be on the right side, because I want to believe that they are trying to achieve what we are trying to achieve here, the just and lasting peace. If it won't be just, it won't last.
Do you think today that the US would respect NATO's Article 5 pledge that an attack on one is an attack on all if Lithuania were to be attacked?
I don't question Article 5, because if we will start questioning it, I do not have any signs and indications that we shouldn't trust our allies in it. And if we will question this one, we have to review fundamentally everything what we are doing. Based on Article 5, based on the assumption that we are all in from the very first moment in the defense, if it is needed, we wrote all the plans how we will fight, and not only fight and defend, how we will defeat our enemies. And for that, then we have started the planning process for NATO capability targets, where Lithuania is also part. If one of the nations is not part of it, we have to review everything and rewrite everything. So that would be fundamentally the end of overall transatlantic security structure, and no one knows what consequences to everyone. So from what I see today, my thesis is that we are not in that situation where we can already say that, okay, that's the obsolete mechanism, that's the organization that we should bury. No, not at all. We have challenges, yes, but we have also opportunities from our side to show that we are strong as Europe. We also have the opportunity to convince US that we should go the other ways, also to convince about the other side, about the aggressor, from everything what we learned. And in Lithuania's case, we learned a lot about Russia.
Thank you so much for speaking to DW.
Thank you.